Welcome to Spinnerack, and here we are, the crew. Today we have Cal online, and we have Petey here in the studio with
I
us.
was sitting here with him and he forgot who I was.
So today we're talking about Venom. Venom, as we all know, is going to be airing real soon in October. It's going to be the first, anti-hero from the Spider-Verse, other than Spider-Man. And so what do we think about this? So far we've seen trailers. Some of them have been very intriguing, but hey, what about a little background on Venom so the people out there know what's going on? And what do we think about this new property? Cal, you have anything to say?
I never really liked Venom.
What a way to start.
But what's the genesis of Venom?
You got to go all the way back to Marvel's Superhero Secret Wars #8, where Spider-Man's on this alien planet because they're fighting some war from the Beyonder, and he finds this alien symbiote, which he just thinks is some creation, and he takes it home as a new suit. That new suit will then give him some problems, says I'm going to just make it short, but it will leave him and find a new owner in the name of this guy, Eddie Brock, who had learned to really hate Peter Parker, and then he learns that Peter Parker is Spider-Man because of the symbiote suit, and we have Venom afterwards. He just becomes a fan-favorite villain, he becomes an anti-hero, he becomes a hero, and I just never really took to him. Never understood why people liked him so much.
I kind of agree with you there.
Oh my gosh. All right. So since you guys weren't on the wave, there's a big create. Well, it has also been a part of the whole Image thing because Todd McFarlane, who not necessarily created, but sort of
That was Zek who created, though.
Yes, Mike Zek, who we met at the con, designed the costume. Well, it's a long line of creation. I'm not going to make this even longer because, it basically started from Iron Fist, where they were thinking about giving Iron Fist a costume that was alive, and then since Claremont and Byrne left Iron Fist, and Roger Stern remembered that idea, and he was like, hey, maybe we should try that for Spider-Man, and then he told that to Tom DeFalco. Roger Stern took that and then told it to Tom DeFalco, and when Roger Stern left, they're like, we're going to need to do something for after Secret Wars. And after Secret Wars, he was like, oh, let's do the alien costume, which, as Cal just said, was tied into the Secret Wars, and then he had the symbiote. And then at the same time, another creator, David Michelinie, he was writing Web of Spider-Man, and he wanted to create a female villain that could get around Spider-Man's Spider-Sense. And when he took over Amazing Spider-Man, he decided, let's kill two birds with one stone. We had this history with Eddie Brock, we had the Spider-Man costume. That'd be a good reason why he can get around the Spider-Sense.
And the history of Eddie Brock is because Eddie Brock, the character in the stories, was a reporter.
Yes.
Right, and he didn't like Peter Parker, and, he didn't like Spider-Man, so that makes it a double whammy for him.
And he was sort of found out as a fraud.
Yeah, I think he
was
was writing
embarrassed. He developed all this hatred, and he becomes. And they wanted to get Spider-Man not to wear the black costume anymore, so to make the costume a villain.
Why?
Why? Because he was going back. He was going back for good.
But didn't he have a black costume after he?
He had the costume after the symbiote left. He would switch back and forth. But then they said we're just sticking with the old costume, the classic costume, and Todd McFarlane was there. That's the thing the part that I brought up was the wave is that in Florida's Todd McFarlane's art, he brought a lot of energy to it. He did a lot of spider pose. I mean, all the elements that were already there in Spider-Man, but he accentuated it a lot because a lot of stuff he did was drawn from Art Adams and Michael Golden as far as the design, but then the cartooniness, a lot of stuff that he did, just had a lot of energy to it. So that, and for me, Venom, not to say that I liked Venom, but Spider-Man, when I look at a Spider-Man comic book and I see like Mr. Hyde, and they have a menacing cover of Mr. Hyde, and then next thing you know, you're looking at it like, he can't touch him. Why should I be, I'm afraid for Mr. Hyde, because none of these villains can touch Spider-Man. But Venom gave you the aspect that some villains had in the past, that the Lizard had when he was stronger and faster, that the Scorpion had, which was stronger and faster. Now we had someone that was as strong, as fast, and could get around the Spider-Sense, which was a cure-all. So we're like, and the couple of times David Michelinie played it, he had it where Spider-Man had to think his way out of, as he did with the alien costume. In Web of Spider-Man, the first one, Spider-Man's going against the costume, and he thinks his way, he goes into the church, and the sonic thing takes away, the powers of the alien, and that's how they separate finally. So that's, Spider-Man would have to think his way out of defeating Venom, and then slowly when Carnage came along, which we'll get to later, at that point, Venom started becoming just a punching bag. So when you see, I think it was Marvel Knight Spider-Man, there's like a whole 9 to 10 page with Spider-Man just beating the hell out of Venom, and it's just like there's a one-note sort of villain, just a revenge sort of villain, but it had the angle of getting around the spider sense, which I think once since Tom DeFalco got the Spider-Man back, people just started forgetting that aspect and said, well, Venom can't touch it because of spider sense. And the whole point of Venom and the spider sense is Carnage. When I saw Carnage, well, I thought there was a redesign of Venom. I see the cover like, oh, Venom's turning to Carnage. Like, oh no, it's another character. So that's your not so brief creation of the character. Don't let it die out, guys. We're still going because we got a movie coming out. We got all this stuff happening for this.
Right. So we're talking about right now with Spider-Man and Venom. How was Spider-Man ever able to defeat a character or a creature that was a symbiote that is able to basically mimic any power that he gets, like the Scorpion's power? He was able to mimic some of those powers and accentuate those powers that you saw in the comics. But yet Spider-Man was able to eventually defeat him. How could he do that? The problem, though, for me has always been that Venom is so much more powerful than Spider-Man. I mean, if you don't have your spider senses, how in the world can you come around and stop Spider-Man? That's the one thing he has.
But they had the whole point of the revenge part was that they can also, the revenge part is what, there's some things that draw Venom back to the actual alien, back to Spider-Man, where Spider-Man used himself saying, hey, you can come back with me. And Eddie Brock is like, where are you going? Where's the costume going? And, leaves them open to being, but sorry for cutting you off. Cal.
Well, no, I mean, long-time reader, Spider-Man reader, it's not the first time he was denied his spider sense by a villain who was more powerful than him. First time that happened was with the Green Goblin. Green Goblin, which I always thought was really fishy, because the Green Goblin's like, hey, I'm going to take away his spider sense. And I'm like, how do you know he even has it? But he did it. He got rid of his spider sense. He captures him. So it wasn't the first time he had to do it. And just about all of Spider-Man's villains are more powerful than him, maybe with the exception of Kraven. And Kraven cheats all the damn time. So Venom was just another villain in a long line. At least for me, it was just another villain in a long line of that tradition of Spider-Man villains who are either somewhat like replicants of him, or they keep on with that same animal or insect, world and such. And he's a little spider that can, so he finds a way to, beat these guys. He's the guy who fights six of his villains at any particular given time, even if he does it one at a time. He's just I don't know. It's kind of like when you have Thanos now. Thanos has his own comic, and guys are actually buying it. Where like guys like the villain, so they just like him.
No, that's very interesting. I mean, and then you have the whole brood of Venom. You have Carnage. You have, what is it? What's the last one?
There was a female Venom, but I can't get into all those other characters. So people still finally remember Carnage, because Carnage was sort of like the Joker mixed with the alien costume, which was a spawn of Venom,
right.
Which somehow the spawn is like twice as powerful, but then it's just totally illogical.
Don't forget the Red Goblin.
Oh, come on! I don't even. Well, does that connect to Venom?
That's Carnage and the Green Goblin mixed together.
God, you had to cut me. You could have just said no. It doesn't connect.
So I mean, it looks as though we're definitely going to see Carnage in a new movie coming up.
What, at the end?
Possibly. That's what scene? I guess that's what's going to happen. I mean, he has to. That's Venom's descendant.
Oh my gosh!
But here's something interesting. I mean, they're trying to now make a backstory for the whole symbiote. How it came about, that it was crazier than the other symbiotes, basically. And
you got inside information on the movie?
I don't know. I'm just saying this is what from the comics that I've been reading and stuff.
So now we got a big movie. We got Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's going to be in some way reluctant hero / reporter, and he's going to turn into this big monster.
Are they going to have Peter Parker? Are they going to have Peter Parker?
No, he's not going to have Peter. He's going to probably talk about him.
I mean, is it going to be the same format where he hates Peter Parker? I'm not getting that at all from this version. I mean, this Brock is Diesel. The other one was Diesel too. He was Diesel too. But I don't know. I think one of the key things with the development of Venom is that there's that whole hate for or revenge on Peter Parker, you know. And if you have that missing in the movie, that's going to be kind of weird to have, unless, of course, you know, this is Hollywood. They'll do.
Yes, yeah.
They don't care.
They don't care.
But that's central to the plot. I mean, even the comics, the cartoons, everything. If you don't have that one dynamic.
Well, that's how we got the Lethal Protector. Venom, Lethal Protector, where he stopped wanting revenge and then became a hero.
Superman is not supposed to kill people. He snaps Zod's neck. They don't care. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. Well, you guys interested in seeing it?
I'm not sure. I mean, some of the stuff, but I think what's the name's a little too doing the befuddled American accent, because he's done okay American guys in movies, and now he's just like, oh, what is this? What's going on? It's like that voice is pretty bad. He's done better as far as his wacky but his wacky American voice isn't working for me.
Okay, I don't know about that, but
you didn't see those.
I saw trailers, but it didn't seem that bad.
He seemed like the same way. There's been a lot of this. There's only one actor that was really good, and that's in that show Succession, that has a British accent, but it seems like he's totally American, that sort of thing. Most of the time you can spot
Half
it like
the bringing actors and on American TV are British. You know, you don't even realize it. So, go check out Kate. Go check out Venom. We think it's going to be a decent movie. We hope it's going to be a decent movie. Hopefully it doesn't disappoint, you know.
And hopefully Spider-Man shows up.
It has to show up. If Spider-Man doesn't show up, I think this movie isn't going to do it.
Spider-Man should show up. They should make a deal and really surprise the audience and have him show up.
It shouldn't even be a surprise. Spider-Man has to show up. The origin has to be set up, you know.
Venom is big enough that he doesn't need Spider-Man to show up. That's the problem. Stop supporting the villain.
I don't know, man. I can't see it. So listen, guys. Spinner Rack out.